Thank you very much. And good morning from Strasbourg. For the first time in 1.5 years, we are back again in Strasbourg in our actual seat. And you see from my way of speaking that my home is not far from Mr. Fortel's home. So my best regards also to Ms. Ursula Heinen-Esser and Professor Schellenhuber. I can clearly tell you that the Bauhaus project is not only something presented by Ursula von der Leyen. I, as the chair of the committee in the parliament, are engaging in a lively exchange with the commissioners, and we want to make this a successful project at EU level, and we want to give it content while advancing this topic. Also, with the help of the European Parliament, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to present you a couple of interesting figures. The European Union is responsible for 8% of global greenhouse gas emissions, and our forests store roughly 10% of that. These are two small figures, but they are key indeed. And they show that climate stewardship can only work globally. And secondly, we need our forests to mitigate climate change successfully. And I'm delighted to be here to speak on the Charter for Wood 2.0. I'm chair of the Committee on Agriculture in the European Parliament, and of course the topic of climate stewardship and sustainable agriculture and forestry is on the top of my agenda every day. I'm always very excited about this sector because it is the only one that can naturally bind carbon and contributes to climate stewardship automatically, but I'm always surprised to see how little this is honored, this service to the environment. That is why I very much welcome the initiative by Federal Minister Julia Klöckner regarding the rewards for climate services, and also the contribution by Minister Heinen-Esser from North Rhine-Westphalia. This initiative, Charter for Wood 2.0, clearly shows the enormous potential of the comprehensive use of timber and the sustainable management. It has already been mentioned in the previous keynotes and remarks. I would like to address the global perspective of climate stewardship. Professor Schellenhuber has already addressed it. We see that achieving the very ambitious climate targets and objectives by the European Union is both a challenge regarding economic and technological obstacles to be tackled and society's acceptance. We need an enormous effort. Global climate stewardship requires a global effort. We need to be ambitious but also realistic. I therefore advocate, especially now, a transatlantic Green Deal together with the new US administration. That would be our goal. Those who can do it must pave the way, and of course also those who cause climate change. Regarding carbon emissions, China is second to none. Then there's the US, China, and Russia. 15 tons of carbon per capita in the US, and in the EU it's 8.5 tons. So it is really a question of political systems whether we can move on climate change. What is key is that we close ranks across the Atlantic. We need to transfer know-how and expertise, and we need to implement climate-friendly technologies in practice. With the new US administration and the new US President, Joe Biden, we have new perspectives, and this is an enormous impetus and momentum we can feel. It is clear that we must seize this opportunity, and we also must rethink climate diplomacy. Two aspects are key. First of all, the EU needs a EU climate and energy ambassador, just like representatives of other partners in the US, for example, John Kerry, and then Alok Sharma as the COP26 president in the UK. They are committed to international global stewardship. And secondly, it has already been mentioned, in every trade agreement we must also implement binding climate stewardship measures. This is elementary for climate stewardship, but also for our competitiveness. This is also key for forest management and timber trade. Whenever we need to import timber, this is also detrimental to climate and the European timber industry. It has already been mentioned by Parliamentary State Secretary Furte. Let me move on to a second aspect, European climate and forest policy. You know that there is a lot going on at the moment, and we have great expectations regarding the Fit for 55 package, as well as the new EU forest strategy in order to actually implement the Green Deal. The new climate change law gives us a clear framework until 2030. A reduction of at least 55% of greenhouse gas emissions in comparison to 1990. For the first time, I would like to stress, we are using carbon sinks in the forestry and agricultural sectors. I very much welcome this new step. It is a European climate policy based on science and also including measures to store carbon. These are real climate stewardship measures. In my opinion, this is long overdue. We need to reward the efforts by the agricultural and forestry sectors. We also need to give incentives for storing carbon in forests. We need to invest in sustainable forestry. And I would also urge the member states to not only take these efforts for granted, but also to reward these services with a corresponding price tag. So let me also mention again the federal minister's efforts in this respect. What is key is that we flesh out the land use change and forestry sectors and carbon farming. We need to make clear that incentives need to be there. We need to promote climate-friendly measures in the forestry and agriculture sectors. Let me just mention, forests are multifunctional. They are a place for nature and biodiversity. They have good air and they are a place of recreation, as well as the economy. A future EU forest strategy must respect these multiple uses of forests and support this, as well as support sustainable forestry management. Now, sustainably managed forests are better for biodiversity, carbon binding, and our bioeconomy. Why? First of all, they store large amounts of carbon in wood and the soil. But old forests don't store as much carbon, but a strongly growing forest can do that. That's better. And secondly, it takes a long time. It is not clear how securely stored carbon is. Once we fell the trees, or if trees fall victim to climate change due to storms and so on, of course the carbon re-enters the air. And thirdly, the question is, what can sustainable forest use and management do, and how can we increase the sink function? We need proper reforestation, climate-adapted tree species, and a proper combination of tree species. But only healthy trees and forests can contribute to biodiversity and climate stewardship. We need the right management in order to do that. And thirdly, we need more energetic and, of course, material use of timber and wood. This, of course, is good for the climate goals of the EU and also for the energy transition. The substitution effects are clear for carbon storage. If we replace concrete and steel as building materials by wood, it has been said, we can significantly cut carbon emissions even before they occur, because carbon is stored in the long term in timber. This is a win-win situation, it has been mentioned. In order to strengthen this wood use and forest management, timber must have a price, it has been mentioned. We need a competitive sector, forestry sector in Europe. And I'm committed to this future forest strategy and supporting people who work in this sector. The new strategy should therefore strike a balance between ecological, social, and economic sustainability. We can replace fossil materials, we can store carbon. We have 3 million jobs there. And especially during the pandemic, forests have been a place of recovery, of mental recovery. Let me just say a few words on the European biodiversity strategy. The Parliament only just adopted its position. The question is, how can we reconcile ecological and economic aspects? Because after all, it's our farmers, our foresters, our fishermen that have been working on fields and forests and ponds and lakes for centuries. And they work on a daily basis to preserve and protect the biological diversity. So we need cooperative solutions rather than just regulations. We need more incentives to create more acceptance among farmers and foresters. We want a good cooperation between the agricultural sector as well as environmental association and society. This gives us also space for more nature conservation and sustainable agriculture. We need to protect our forests through management, and I look forward to our conversation now. I'm sure that we will all agree that sustainable forest management is key. Thank you.